All right, this video is for anyone who missed class on February 1st. Here we go. We started by looking at these vocabulary words that came up in yesterday's class. Ayal means, Ata means, Hadar means, Resha means, Seifa we didn't have, but it's the opposite of Resha. Like Resha is Rosh, Seifa is Sof. Azal, he went. Okay. So here we go with our question. We had this great piece of Talmud yesterday about Rav teaching and all these different people coming in, and then all of a sudden Rav Chanina Bar Chama comes in, and Rav says, "Enough already! I'm not going back to the beginning after every single person here." Doesn't go back to the beginning. Rav Chanina is offended. Rav kind of goes 13 times on Erev Yom Kippur to ask for forgiveness, but Rav Chanina will not forgive. So that's the story. And we're going to have a kind of back and forth that's going to go on in the Talmud now. And it's going to be based on this kind of interesting story about the towards the end of Joseph's life, Jacob has just died. And so read kind of what's going on here. And for question number one, I'm going to ask you, what are the brothers doing and what are they actually afraid of? What are Joseph's brothers afraid of? And then question number two is, do you think it's actually true? Did Jacob actually write a letter like this, or are the brothers actually making this up? And so, but from this verse that actually the brothers say, or from, we actually learn from this that actually you only, when you say tshuva, when you kind of say you're sorry and hope for forgiveness, you only have to say that 3 times. So the question is, how did they get it from this verse? What is it? What is there? What 3 repetitions kind of teaches us about only needing to say I'm sorry 3 times? And there it is, right? The word na, 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 please, please, please. And from this, the Talmud says, and this is why Rav Yossi, son of Rabbi Chanina, said whoever asks for forgiveness shouldn't ask more than 3 times. And interesting enough, I said, do you notice anything weird about this statement? And what we noticed in class was Rabbi Yossi, son of Rabbi Chanina. What? Rabbi Chanina? Oh my goodness, if you go back, Rabbi Chanina is the rabbi who actually was the one who did not forgive Rob. So do me a favor for your next question, which I think is question maybe 4. Write out the story that it is that Rav Yossi would write something like this, having the father of Rav Chanina, being the son of Rav Chanina, right? Okay. And then question number 5 is, according to this idea, who has a job when it comes to doing tshuva, or the forgiver or the one who's asking for forgiveness? And then what happens for question number 6? What happens actually after the 3 times have been reached? And Kate asked the question in class, after the 3 times being released, is it that actually the person who should have forgiven needs to say, now I have to ask you for forgiveness? Or are you saying, I don't hold a grudge anymore? Or are you saying, I have to ask forgiveness that I was so hard-hearted? So what is that? So whatever it is, we're up to kind of that part of the story, because the Talmud is going to ask now, how could Rav have done this? Done what? Right? So what is this? This is question number 7. What are they questioning about what Rav did? Right? And they're saying, hey, if Rav probably knew the ruling of that 3 times asking for forgiveness is enough, you don't have to do it anymore. So why would Rav have done not 3 times but 13 times? Give me a couple ideas. Give me 3 different ideas of why you think Rav might do that. And here's what the Talmud actually says. The Talmud uses the phrase Rav Shane. Rav is different. Now, there's ambiguity as far as what that actually means. Rav is different. What do you think actually that could mean? Rav is different. That's question number, I think, 9, right? How is Rav different? And at least the way that Talmud understands it either is Rav is different than that he holds himself to a higher standard. Yes, for normal people, it's only having to ask 3 times, but Rav is going to go ahead and say, I'm going to ask as long as it takes. The people in class also brought up, there's a teacher-student relationship here that maybe Rav is doing it because of that. But then also the other side that was also brought up in classes, but wait a second. Rav Hanina was also a teacher. He knows more than anyone how frustrating it is when people walk in late. Like, shouldn't he just let this go? Oh my goodness, right? Okay. And the Gemara seems to feel like this is an okay answer, that Rav has holds himself to a different standard. That's why he's not beholden to the law itself of 3 apologies, but actually goes above and beyond. Lior also brought up something interesting in class, that when we see this phrase, when we see the phrase, if this is our phrase that's kind of our example of our proof text of why you have to ask sorry 3 times, Lior asked, can you say you're sorry all at those 3 things all at once, or does there have to be time in between? So question number 11 is, according to the proof text, is it all at once, or is there time in between? But according to Rav, is it all at once, or is there time in between? That's question number 13, we'll call it, right? Rav waits waits a year in order to do this. Okay, so now we have kind of Rav's answer, but now we're asking about Rav Chanina, and what are we asking about Rav Chanina, right? What's the question that we're asking, right? And the phrase in the Talmud is Hechi Avid Hachi. How could he do that? How could he do this? How could he not forgive? Shouldn't he have known that, his job is to be a forgiver? And so we talked in class about why this might have been. Maybe he knew that Rav Hanina knew that his ruling was not, that the sorries were not sincere. Maybe a lot of people focused on class on the fact that the apologies were happening not on a normal day, but Erev Yom Kippur, meaning almost like Rav had a list being like, oh, every Yom Kippur I have to do my job, and everyone who's angry at me I have to go down the list and say I'm sorry. So it was almost like perfunctory and really didn't have real meaning behind it. I thought that was a really neat answer, and you're going to be very surprised about it. So give us one idea of why you think Rabbi Hanina doesn't forgive, and we'll call that question number 14. And now here is the answer that's actually given. And so what I'd like to do for question number 15 is explain what's going on here. That's question number 15. And it should startle you because the class was up in arms about this, right? And so here's going to help you out, that actually Rav Hanina is a teacher. He is actually Rav's teacher, but he is the teacher of a great yeshiva, a great study hall in Israel. Okay. We do know that Rav becomes a great teacher of a study hall, not in Israel, but in a place called Pumbedita, or Sura, I think it is. And that's a place, that's one of the big towns in Babylonia. So, and he becomes a very famous teacher in his own right. So, what is going on here, which is so interesting, and what is the larger idea of what is happening here, right? Rav Chanina's, we think Rav Chanina is being cold-hearted by saying no, but actually he's trying to be the catalyst that will, in a sense, send Rav away, which will cause Rav to be to found a school and become a great teacher and have more Torah in the world. Now, but Rav Hanina might have also seen in this dream that Rav was going to take over for him and be the new head of that yeshiva, meaning that Rav Hanina is dead or something like that, or Rav Hanina is gone. So I'm not quite sure. What do you make of this? Obviously, since it's on the ping side, we're trying to justify Rabbi Hanina's actions. So the question is, are they justified? And what's the larger issue that it kind of brings up? The larger question of that we don't just have in this debate, but in larger debates. And that's your final question. What is the nafka mina of what's going on here, the larger question wise, and what's the nafka mina? What's the takeaway? And that's it. We did spend a few moments going over the questions that how we all answered the following Mishnah, because it's going to be part of our video this week. about you can rescue food for 3 meals from a fire on Shabbat. You can rescue food that is fit for a person, You can rescue food that is fit for an animal. How does this work? If a fire ignites on Friday night, before the Shabbat evening meal, you can rescue food for 3 meals. Fire ignited in the morning, after the Shabbat evening meal has been eaten and before the meal of Shabbat day, you can only rescue food for 2 meals. If fire ignited in the afternoon, you can rescue food for 1 meal. But Rabbi Yossi says you can always rescue food for 3 meals. And actually, that was the big question that I asked in class today, and you, Melissa, had a good answer to this, and we mentioned it in class as well. All right, that's it. Just email me your answers for credit.